Hello friends, welcome to this segment on 12th Night. Here we'll have a kind of a reading of Antonio's character in the play. Antonio, as you know, in the play is a friend and admirer of Sebastian, almost a kind of a devotee of Sebastian, we can say. I'm particularly using the word devotee because of certain reasons, when we'll see that later in the course of this discussion. He rescues Sebastian from the shipwreck, follows him to Illyria in spite of having several enemies there. His mistake of Viola as Sebastian in Act 3, Scene 4 adds to the comic complications of the play. He is a character who establishes a young man's attractive personality, Sebastian's attractive personality. A character in that sense, like a choric character of Enobarbus in Antonio and Cleopatra. Shakespeare often employs characters to expose other characters. But he also, to some extent, is so closely attached towards Sebastian that in him we often find a kind of what may be called a kind of a futility of a love that the social constraints of Elizabethan England would never allow to be fulfilled. Or more precisely, it's about the futility of same-sex love that we find over here. And he is one of the characters for whom the title, or what you will, or the uneasiness in the comic nature of the play, that the play actually is a comedy but still questions whether life is really comic for everyone, for even people like Malvolio, who is social marginal from the economic hierarchical nature of society, and Antonio, who is another person living along the fringes because perhaps of his different sexual orientation. So he is a character that actually adds to the uneasiness of the comedy. And we will read two parts of the play where his devotion towards Antonio comes out. And we'll try to find out why we call this extreme attachment a kind of a devotion. One is Act 2, Scene 1, line 37. After the exit of Sebastian, he stays on the stage. He's not given a long soliloquy as we often find in case of the protagonist, but it's a very small speech which he says, and after that he also goes out. And see how he expresses his attachment towards Sebastian. The gentleness of all the gods go with thee. I have many enemies in Orsino's court, else would I have shortly see thee there. But come what may, I do adore thee so, that danger shall seem sport, and I will go. So, I will draw your attention towards the images like gods over here, adore, and as you must have been able to understand, the imagery is distinctly religious. Okay, 12th Night, the title is somehow associated with a kind of a religious celebration. And Sebastian, Deus Ex Machina, is, by some critics, Viola has been compared to someone like Christ. and some critics have gone to the extent of comparing Sebastian to a Christ-like figure. The Deus Ex Machina, you must also understand, is a god who would come and interfere and provide the resolution to the comedy. Here again we find the image, these lines are deeply charged with a kind of a religious fervor, which is very noteworthy in this context. It somehow contributes to the subtext of a kind of a religious association that runs throughout the play. He says that he has many enemies in Orsino's court, but still he will follow Sebastian because his adoration towards Sebastian is so much so that danger shall seem sport. The other extract that we have selected for our understanding of the character is from Act 3, Scene 4, line 342. Second officer, 341. Come, sir, I pray you go. Let me speak a little. This youth that you see here is actually mistaking Viola for Sebastian. This youth that you see here, I snatched one half out of the jaws of death. So he has rescued Sebastian, relieved him with such sanctity of love, such seriousness of love. You can understand the seriousness of the character and the seriousness of the relationship that's coming over here. And to his image, which methought did promise most venerable worth, did I devotion. And to his image, which methought did promise most venerable worth, did I devotion. And I was extremely devoted. Look at the images again. And this cannot be coincidental. Again, Shakespeare decks it with images related to, particularly in the last two lines of the extract, images related to the world of religion. Image, venerable, and devotion. Antonio's love towards Sebastian is deeply religious. At least religion is used as a metaphor over here. Is almost like religious. Not, you can't call it deeply religious, but it's equivalent to spiritual love, to religious love, to religious devotion. But you must also remember that this is a character which goes back unsatisfied in the end. He doesn't get his Sebastian, perhaps because the society does not allow him to do so. And here comes the end of Twelfth Night. Particularly, we have studied the characters, particularly Twelfth Night seen from the aspect of these characters. Now, Twelfth Night, one must understand, is a somewhat complex play. It has many ramifications of other plays of Shakespeare. It's a play belonging to a transitional period. The next play would be Hamlet, one of the finest of Shakespeare's tragedies. It's also a play that, does not enter into the morbid world that Hamlet will enter, the morbid world of human psyche, of the subconscious. But it is also a play that questions the nature of romantic comedy. It shows that comedy, the comedy or the humor that we find in a romantic play or a kind of a comedy is perhaps the human humor of the majority. Perhaps it also ignores the minority, the people living along the fringes, the people living along the borders of socially sanctioned morality or of the kind of a socio-economic hierarchy. And perhaps for them it is not always comic, as it is not for over here for people like Malvolio and Antonio. So this is perhaps at the crux of Twelfth Night, and perhaps that's why it has been alternatively titled Or What You Will. You will take Twelfth Night from whatever stance you want, depending on your own standing. That's all with Twelfth Night. Thank you.